jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
John, first off, how did you get into Mummy? Did you get into the remake first, or did you go to the Universal era, classic monster?
Well, it was actually the remake that introduced me to the Mummy.
It's all good. And I think Mummy helped because I was always learning about Egyptian folklore, and I was just as much fascinated mildly with it as I was Greek mythology and just, even certain particular just symbolism of literature and how it equated to pop culture and other shocking material. And, it helped that there was other, knockoffs of it, like Tales of the Mummy from 98 with, a bunch of other actors. And it was just always one of those there, TBS and TNT were playing it nonstop, and Hammer Horror then readapted it. So from this point on, I have only seen The Mummy years ago, the 32 one on Turner Classic Movies. I don't remember much about it, but I recall it being good. I just didn't like it as much as like The Wolfman or the original Frankenstein. That was, it's all good.
I was gonna say, I just watched it this past Halloween.
Oh, really?
And yeah, that's one I didn't really care for too much. I definitely prefer the remake.
No, it's all good. It was followed by 4 sequels, with the words hand, tomb, ghost, and curse in it from within the course of 4 years, and then Abbott and Costello doing one. And I liked Abbott and Costello in short instances. I definitely did not care for their movies. They to me were not the Rat Pack or the Marx Brothers. They just did not have that stamina to carry an entire, 2-hour feature. It just didn't work for me.
That's cool. I liked one of their movies.
Oh, I'm sure there was at least one winner. And don't get me wrong, Who's on First will always be an instantly recognizable classic. It's just one of those things.
True.
Now, with the Hammer Horror, they did a bunch of these throughout the 50s to the 70s. And I definitely saw the 59 one with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee as the title villain. And that wasn't too bad. That occasionally gets played on MGM and also on TCM, even Fox Movies. Definitely recommend that one. It's slow, but you get the mayhem you're looking for, at least in the second hour. So there's that. It's well shot and scored, so that also makes a difference. That was followed by Curse of the Mummy's Tomb and the Mummy's Shroud and Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. And once again, these don't have any correlation other than, Hammer Horror made them. But as we work our way through there, and they're not easy to come by, let us turn to what most of this many generations, these last 3 decades, know as the Universal relaunch which lasted from 99 to 2008. And we'll get to other spin-off material eventually. So 99, the just surprise phenomenon, cult hit, The Mummy just shows up. Stephen Sommers has already worked on other cult movies like Deep Rising and, Gunmen. And so I just feel from this one, it just from the bat up, you know, it really gets it right. I had mainly seen more of the sequel than I had this one, but over time, there's just no denying this one. I feel is just like the superior movie. It's just
Oh, definitely.
the sweeping Lawrence of Arabia type, scenery and battles, the humor working, the the plane fight goes on pretty long, so I definitely don't recommend watching this on cable nowadays. It's just very long, but it really does get the movie to its satisfying conclusion. You can it's way more over to the top than the heavily inspired, the typical inspired Indiana Jones movie, but it holds its own. It builds its own interesting characters. Rachel Weisz and Fraser, are just working very well off each other. This is where I discovered John Hannah and would always just pick him out when I saw him in some other costume drama or crime movie and be like, "Hey, it's the brother."
It's very true. This is actually the one that introduced me to Kevin J. O'Connor.
Yes, I've actually had a friend who did extra work on Becoming a God in Miami or whatever, that Kristen Dunst, Jesse Plemons Showtime show. He met him on there, said he was a pretty nice guy.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah, and so it was just so funny. He's like, "Yeah, did you see that Chicago PD rerun with him?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's one of those other actors. He's a chameleon. He's been everywhere forever. But I think, and it was wild because for a while I didn't see him in anything for a while. I was like, "What happened to him?"
Yeah,
Like, he's here. He's here. He's here. He's worked on a bunch of other stuff with O'Connor and TV prior to this, but yeah, this definitely got him some more movie offers like There Will Be Blood and all that. So what just gels with you for this movie? Everything aside from the art direction, the music, the shots, and just the proper mix of camp and over the top adventure. What really just gels with you, which makes you say, I'm in the mood to rewatch this gym tonight.
Well, it's the majority of those, but I mean, just the performances. Like I said, the humor, the CG, which I actually think holds up extremely well.
Yeah.
In CG. I mean, you have Arnold Vosloo as the villain, which is the movie that introduced me to Arnold Vosloo.
Yeah.
I didn't see him on Target before then. It was after I saw this.
Absolutely, yeah. And he got a lot of flack for being like miscast in Darkman. I thought he did pretty good, but it was one of those. It's like, yeah, it's a direct-to-video affair. It is what it is. But
yeah,
I mean, this and Hard Target definitely made him staples of Universal, and then seeing him as a villain on shows like 24, and then just making other just small movie appearances like in Blood Diamond. He's like he's done it all, and he's definitely a beloved villain actor because he just gives so much charisma. He's very much, I think, going in for a South African actor, he's not Egyptian. He very much does the whole Andrew Divoff in Wishmaster mentality, where he's just really just digging into it, just becoming what he isn't and making you believe it, and just stilling every scene he's in. He just has that kind of shock and awe about him, and I'm sure that's why he he has so many hysterical bloopers on the interviews and DVDs for either movie, and it's awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now the final fight is especially outrageous because you get a mixture of gunfights, dynamite explosions, and then just more just getting flipped down flights of stairs and just struggling to get up and work the spells and everything to put him back in his tomb. It's kind of funny in that regard because it's embracing the over the top appeal, just like any better James Bond movie.
Oh, definitely. That's what they were going for. That's why I love it.
Yeah. So 2 years later, we were followed with the sequel, Mummy Returns, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen this on cable. It was always on.
Yeah.
How did you feel like it is? This one gets picked apart just because the CGI hasn't really evolved as well. I think it's still just kind of a fun movie considering, it had so much competition it was going up against back then, Black Hawk Down, Lord of the Rings,
Yeah, that's, to me, I've always enjoyed this sequel. even with the wonky CGI at the end, which we all know about.
I mean,
And
for once, the kid's not annoying either. That's a
yeah, he's
really
not. That's the one good thing is you don't feel like you want him to die.
right. And I mean, this is where a lot of the supporting characters, which were kind of tertiary, fourth characters in the whole narrative, get to more to do. I mean, Oded Farr, after
Oh
this, he
yeah,
did Resident Evil, Sleeper Cell, and a few other shows. But I mean, he just stills every scene here. He gets more funny stuff to do.
that's true.
I feel like this gets off the bat running. We already had Adil Adawadi a year before Born Identity, a few years after being one of the badasses on the HBO prison drama Oz, seeing him as the main character shooting darts,
Yeah,
complimenting the villains. I think it's cool that, it's his love interest who's been resurrected and she's trying to bring her love, the title villain, back to life. It's just straightforward comic book fun. The car chases are fun. A lot of people have noted how the trolley chase is totally a knockoff of Speed, but I mean, like, it's parodying it. It's so having a little bit of that just kind of moment. It's kind of like Con Air. It's just having those small moments, kind of making winking, amusing nods to other movie buffs who are going to get it.
yeah.
It's like,
Noticed that till now.
it's what you got to do. It's what you got to do. And yeah. Any other interesting stories of takes on just watching these over the years?
Mm, like I said, I mean, the first two, I grew up on these movies, especially the first two,
Yeah,
and I mean,
everyone knew about him. I didn't know any kids who really hated him. I knew other people who were just kind of like, yeah, whatever, it's mindless. They didn't have any connection to it, which was kind of a shame. It's like, I actually do enjoy the characters there, It doesn't
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
be award winning. It knows what it is. It's
that's
doing
what I love
exactly
about
what it is. Exactly. It's not
And you have a
trying.
director who has a sense of humor. Like he knows how to shoot these type of movies, coming from Deep Rising to this.
Right.
And then, in my opinion, his underrated GI Joe film, but we won't go there
Yeah.
right now.
Well, don't worry. We'll save GI Joe for another day. I mean,
Yeah,
I like me just. I mean, let's be honest. You bring up Transformers in any discussion, everyone pretty much gets shredded. It's like, Jesus, I don't think they're all that bad, but it's the same thing with Fast and Furious. It's hard to have a conversation about them.
only one Transformers movie I don't mind. So
It's all good. See, exactly. It's
yep.
just like mileage varies on these movies. I mean, after all, they're about the
Yeah,
cars. So, I mean, with this, I mean, you pretty much know what you're getting. I even had friends and relatives who typically didn't like violent movies, but they would do stuff, like obviously, they do stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek and
oh yeah,
Monty Python, just stuff that most generations get raised on, Saturday Night Live. But yeah, if it had to, if they
like
were doing
me.
some, there you go. If they were going to do adventure stuff, it pretty much had to be something like this, Indiana Jones, and then they do Mummy. And so it took a good 7 years. And they replaced it with a Chinese army led by unstoppable Jet Li, and
Oh Lord, this one.
permanently replaced Rachel Weisz with Maria Bello, who I've been a fan of, but it's not her best moment here.
Yeah, it's not. And
So
then having the
let's,
son grow up. Oof, not a
yeah,
toy.
yeah, it's some rough stuff. I saw this in the theater.
So did I, actually.
So this is a while. It's the same year as James Bond, Dark Knight, bunch of other spy movies, action movies, Incredible Hulk. So
And I
it's
am
a
the
it's
also.
it's a spectacle year. Everyone's going to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of Rob Cohen generally. I know some people like some of the stuff he's done. I like Dragonheart, but I don't think the direction in it is good. If that makes sense, there's some rough edits and everything.
I mean, I like Dragonheart, and the only Vin Diesel movie I like that's not Fast Five is Triple X. So,
So there you
all
go.
him. Everything
Um,
else, no.
I mean, this guy Rob Cohen, I know he's pretty pretentious in interviews, and I've just seen a lot of his other schlocky movies, like the Boy Next Door and all the other just outrageous the Alex Cross movie, which no one should see.
I don't even talk about that.
Yeah, so
That was not a good experience in the theater.
Daylight, very boring Stallone adventure movie. So it's like he started out, directing Universal shows like Vanishing Sun, Miami Vice, and it's like he just doesn't seem to have any theatrical mentality. He just seems to think he's so clever because he's like a Buddhist and pays attention to all this art direction and cinematography. I will say this, Jet Li, his heart doesn't seem to be in it, but he has a few nice, bad guy moments. Russell Wong appears here briefly. Totally wasted. Yeah, he's like the guy. He's killed at the very beginning. It's like,
why? Okay.
It's like, really? Why even cast him at all? And then he appears later as, resurrected, Dynasty Warrior. Michelle Yeoh is not made good use of. Her sword fight is very wasted and choreographed. I enjoy this as a mindless movie, but it's not one I even need to bother, having be part of the whole thing. I didn't think it was like a 20%. I'd probably just give it a 50% kind of thing. It's just one of those like, meh.
Yeah,
food.
I'm kind of the same way on that.
There's lots of machine gun action, but that plane fight goes on way too long.
It does.
How do you do a mummy movie and have? I mean, when it goes on so long in the part one, you at least had the historical element, and they have a few other Hong Kong superstars like Anthony Chow Zhang, and there's nothing to their characters. They're just shouting out words.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. There just was something goofy about the first two, while also having some badass appeal to it, and just overall sense of just, it was hip. It was for the MTV generation, but it was also just a throwback to those who liked some old school movies. So it was like, it was a perfect combo. And, this one just kind of just said, I will say,
a movie pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a D-list movie given a C-list moment just because Brendan Fraser's heart's still in it.
Yeah.
But after a while, it does get a little tiresome hearing him say, I really hate movies. It's like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm sounding like stand-up comedian Tig Notaro here. I get it. I get it. That's a line she says.
Yeah.
So then this was followed by the Scorpion King.
Which I actually don't hate that movie. I think that's when I call like a decent time waster at best.
That's all you can really take it as. It's The Rock's acting is not there yet, but I don't think it's awful. It's just like it's going for. It should have been rated R, but it was just a simple.
Yeah, it should have been.
Conan movie. And more or less, I mean, the character was just a supporting secondary villain in Returns, and they just said, hey, we got a contract with WWE, why don't we make use of it? And this was followed by 4 other direct-to-video sequels.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We might talk about video games, music. Yeah, that's the big one, music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yes.
I am the master storyteller of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you can think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers, the Google Play, Apple Podcasts,
what else?
Podbean,
what else?
Podcast Addict,
goddamn,
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair to say all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen, and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little history doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How did you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. Whether one likes plot holes or gratuitous movies, it's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy at eilfm.podbean.com.
Welcome to Who Was She podcast. I am your host, Tara Jabari. After a decade working in documentaries, marketing, and all things digital media, I found that podcasting is a strong medium to share stories. After years of producing for others, I decided to start my own biographical podcast. Who Was She will focus on the life of a woman throughout Baha'i history. The first season is about Lydia Zemenov. Lydia's story explores the subjects of the power of language and faith. Her father invented the universal language Esperanto, and she came from a Jewish family and became a Baha'i. She grew up during World War I and was killed during World War II in a concentration camp, despite heroic efforts to save her life. How can one person's life intersect with so many others, connect across borders, and inspire a biography which inspired this podcast? Over the next few weeks, I will share her story with you and the lives that were most affected by her and those who affected her life as well. They include her father, Ludwig Zemenov, her spiritual mother, American journalist Martha Root, and the Baha'i German soldier Fritz Mako, who worked for the resistance undercover while having to serve the Nazi Party. I want to thank the author Wendy Heller and George Ronald Publishing for their blessing to let me use Heller's biography, Lydia, The Life of Lydia Zemenov, Daughter of Esperanto, as a main and instrumental resource for this podcast. So please subscribe and learn about this amazing woman who traveled through 3 continents in an effort to bring unity through the power of language. You can also find more information on our Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Who Was She Podcast. Music was composed and performed by Sam Red. I am your host, Tara Jabari. Join us next time as we begin our journey about Lydia Zemenov.
Hi everybody, it's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything. Pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series, an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.
Are you sick of the same old stale podcasts? Well, then join Vanessa and Darren as they dissect movies of all kinds. The two lifelong cinema lovers bring their favorites, curiosities, and first-time watches to the operating table and inject them with a healthy dose of snark. Then there's the waiting room, where they examine books and short stories. So just look for them on Apple Podcasts and where fine podcasts are available. They're part of the Legion Podcast Network. Follow them on Twitter at VDClinicPod. Join them on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/VDClinicPod. Or email them at vdclinicpod@gmail.com. They're ready to cure what ails you. And still, they just might be a little contagious.
We now continue with our program.
Which
I haven't seen.
Well, we're all fans of junky action adventure here. Seek them out.
Maybe one day.
I don't think they're as well incorporated as some of the better Dragonheart sequels, which are at least trying to get Lord of the Rings style epicness. These are just laid back, just mindless Saturday morning fun, and they help because they also have part 2. You don't really have to bother with. It's Russell Mulcahy, of Highlander and Ricochet fame, doing a very campy movie with a former Power Ranger as the main star, fighting unstoppable warrior Randy Couture. Yeah, it is what it is.
Wow.
I couldn't get into it the first time. The second time I watched it, it was mindless B-movie fun, but it's not remarkable. It's just, you watch it and you don't remember it the next day. Part 3, I'm sorry. This was just shit-tacular. This was so much stupid fun.
Is that Billy Zane in that one?
Billy Zane rocking
Okay,
an
yeah.
outrageous
I know about that
haircut. Ron Perlman showing up and laughing very stupidly. Tamora Morrison from Once Were Warriors and Star Wars movies, Jango Fett, being a very heroic hero. Guard the helms, fire away, and it's a very fun shit sandwich. You should totally pick it up. And Roll Rain, who did the Death Race sequels, and
I think he did too, actually.
Yeah. He does shoot some awesome action. You can tell it's lower budget, but you can't say that the slow motion. He knows how to do fun, junk food with heart, if that makes sense. And
yeah, that makes sense.
The elephant fights and the other sword stuff is cool, even when they lack the bloody results. It's just fun. Quest for Power. Oh my god, this might be my favorite. It doesn't have as much just quotability as part 4, but just from the ground up, just all the cameos they sneak in the first 10 minutes. Yeah, you have Barry Boswick as like a supporting character chanting all these ridiculous spells. Yeah, it's just stupid, but you gotta see it if you love stupid stuff like this. Part 3 had Kimbo Slice and a few other wrestlers just in the background. This one, it has freaking Lou Ferrigno and Don the Dragon Wilson shown in the first minute. And Lou gets fucking smashed by a giant statue. But it's even funnier because Don Wilson also gets killed just in one scene, and that's it. But then it's followed by Victor Webster, who played the title character in the last movie and does a good job. He's been in some Skull movies as well as the TV show Continuum. He's a badass. Check him out. If there's any scene you got to see in these whole fucking movies, you got to see the part 4 where he just literally just goes to the table and just does a total Beastmaster Ator type thing. And those who are follow me, yeah, it's some other sword and sorcery type of typical thing. He literally just goes to these guards. They're eating all this raw chicken and other shit, and he basically just says, "Hey, who's hungry?" and just throws this entire table of food, just topples it all over him. to get away is like, oh my, yeah, just absolute lowbrow, shitacular stuff you gotta just see.
Wow.
Rutger Hauer also appears in here briefly as a king or some sort. It's whatever. He did his job. He seemed to be having fun.
Well, at least that's good.
At least being professional. Michael Biehn also appears in here. Oh, my bad. No, that's right. Michael Biehn is the evil king. That's what it, yeah.
Yeah, my man.
He didn't seem as irritated as he usually is. Ian White, stuntman from stuff like Clash of the Titans and the various Alien versus Predator and Prometheus movies, is here. Seek it out, have fun with it. I saw it on cable TV, so I didn't lose anything except a bunch of belly aching laughs. Oh man,
I had to watch that one then.
For sure. So then we have Book of Souls, which is directed by Don, the Trimmers and Sniper movies, and Half Past Dead and Company of Heroes and Kindergarten Cop 2 and more Sniper and Death Race movies. So yeah, it is what it is. I saw this on Netflix. That's basically the way to go. I found this pretty less remarkable, but I didn't. The plot was kind of bizarre, like a lesser version of the 13th Warrior or other Conan type movies, just villages fighting other villages. It was cool seeing Nathan Jones fight. Basically, because the cast was less inspired, I just didn't find it as interesting. It was cool seeing Peter Minsa from Spartacus TV show, Tears of the Sun and 300 fame in here. Yeah, it was just a time killer. That's all it was to it. It just mindless fun. It was cool having some villains called the Black Arrows sneak up on the camp, but what can I say? These are just mindless Saturday morning type movies. Obviously, if you're more into wrestling or Power Rangers, you might have more fun. I just like mindless shit. I judge it for what it is, regardless of what it's trying to be versus whether it's successful. It's all entertainment. If you can be a less successful version of Commando, I'll at least give you that. As long as you're not trying to be something that you're not, it's like, okay, you're trying to be epic like Lord of the Rings. Stop it. Just stop it. You don't have a, it's all good. It's like, know what you are. If you can't be a plot that lasts, 3 movies of people fighting. That's actually my favorite skit on Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't know if you ever saw any of that.
I didn't see that one. I have to watch that.
Oh, the improv show with Drew Carey, Aisha Tyler.
Oh, no, I saw that. I didn't see what they did there.
Oh, okay, yeah. You said Tyler's season. It was just so funny how Colin Mockery had to do a Party Quirks game. And, but basically, the guys that are having to guess who is he. And he's like, people fighting, 3 hours long. I quote that every once in a while. People fighting, 3 hours long. Oh, Jesus. So these are not 3 hours long. So if you just want dorky, fun, you want to see where The Rock started, if you aren't into it, still, just check out at least part 3 or 4, just to have some mindless, see where direct-to-video has been the last few years. I don't know. Have fun.
Yeah.
So then this was followed by, in 2017, Universal Studios since 2012 have been planning on, basically, they got every kind of person they could get, and they all dropped out at eventually. They had people like Billy Ray, Big, and the Hunger Games. They had Len Wiseman of Underworld and Live Free or Die Hard. They had every kind of person. They basically wanted to counter DC and Marvel by doing their own update of the Universal monsters all fighting together. And, it sounded as pretty dumb as it sounded, in my opinion. And then finally they got Alex Kurtzman of, Star Trek shows and Amazing Spider-Man, and they got Chris Morgan of Cellular Wanted and Fast and Furious movies to finally pin a script. And it starred Tom Cruise. Not as the Mummy, mind you, although that would have been more interesting, as a guy fighting a female version of the mummy, and then finding out it's all related to some potion conducted by Van Helsing, played by Russell Crowe. How he went from Transylvania to over here in Egypt is anybody's guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I found this unwatchable.
Well,
but you should totally see it. It's hysterical.
Well, I actually did see it.
It's all good.
It's how do I describe this movie? It's not one I hate, but it's one that I watched once and I went, I don't need to watch it again. I am good. Nope.
Apparently, Kurtzman, Tom Cruise did a lot of uncredited rewriting. That's Scientology for you. So
surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise. I don't know how David Cope and Christopher McQuarrie and all these other guys even got attracted to writing this script. I just find that just unfeasible, but it is what it is.
Well, McCoy is Tom Cruise.
Yeah. And I saw other people saying the graphics look good. I thought they looked terrible in the trailer. I was not sold on them here in the final cut. They just looked very rushed. And typically Industrial Light and Magic does their best, but I did not like them here because they were very rushed in either both the editing or just how they were unleashed on screen. And because there wasn't any other kind of camp to go on, it just excluded boredom. I saw other people wanting to see it because they're like, oh, it's Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise doing the stunts, yada yada. And it's like, oh, Sophia Boutella, we liked her in Kingsman, she's hot. And I'm like, I need something actual to connect me to this.
True.
And they had other stars from movies and TV. They had Courtney B. Vance and Annabelle Wallis, and it's like even Jake Johnson. Well, that's just it. There's nothing to their characters, so you really don't remember that they're in it. There was a very long trailer that played in front of another movie. I don't remember what, but I remember me and my siblings were like, well, I kind of got an idea of what it was, but my sister and my brother were both like, this is very long. This is a very boring trailer. Is this a Mission Impossible movie? Because this should not be what Mission Impossible is. And he was like, no, it's... Yeah, you could be mistaken because they don't show anything. They just show one long, endless crash in the trailer. And it's like...
Basically, the entire opening they showed in that trailer.
Yeah, it's an archaeologist dig gone wrong. And, but he's not just anything. He's a U.S. Army sergeant named Nick Morton who's been tortured, and he's got some PTSD or some shit, and now he's entrapped by this cutie who's going to kill everybody, and it's like, okay, well, again, need something more. I really don't know what else to say about this. I know a lot of people were just talking about it, and some people say it wasn't that bad. It's like, I don't know, man. I even find the score by Ryan Tyler, who I typically like, to be pretty dull.
I don't remember the scores. That tells you something right there.
Yeah, there you go. He's done lots of movies and TV. Now You See Me, Iron Man Free. And
much better movies to watch.
Yeah, please. Any day. I mean, he's been scoring for so long, just even before anyone knew who he was. Indie films and everything, and other big movies like War and Constantine is like, okay, Star Trek Enterprise, but Law Abiding Citizen, The Expendables. So this score is like, okay, it just doesn't. I just really see no need to talk about it, but I mean, people have talked about how the plane crash makes use of the vomit comet in parabolic flight to simulate the illusionist of weightlessness. They should have used it on a way better movie. They should have actually used it on one of Tom Cruise's silly Mission Impossible movies. So I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been better, to be honest.
I mean, at least it would have been seen more in the trailer and in the actual movie. Yeah, so
I mean, the only thing I can say about this one is, I mean, Sophia Boutella, she tries in that role. It's just there's not much there to a character.
Yeah.
No characters at all.
Oh dear.
Say.
Pretty much. So, summing up, how would you introduce people to this franchise, and how would you rank each of these?
So the ones I've seen, I basically just tell people just watch, well, at least how I've done it. Watch the first two Brendan Fraser ones. I guess if you want to, you can go back and look at the 30s one, if you have the patience.
Right. Yeah, at least the 50s one, I can definitely say.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you're at least going to like the art direction and just the bizarreness of it. You know.
Yeah.
All that trombone getting some serious work. Yeah, I mean, the first two are at least, 3.5, 4 out of 5, blockbuster movies that, make use of just some fun nature of it all. Just really, and they really do not make movies of this anymore. Nowadays, this,
Nope.
everything would be green screen now, to where it's just, it would take you out of it.
No set.
Exactly. It's like there's a mix of green screen and actually building the sets, and done in a way where it doesn't take you out of it. And the music's by Alan Silvestri. They're a Predator and Jerry Goldsmith, Legend. Planet of the Apes and everything. Just really striking the right chords, pun intended. Part 3, if you're gonna watch it on cable, and forget about it the next day. Scorpion King movies, I'm sorry. I mean, if you're gonna be a fan of The Rock, please at least see the first one. It's just know where he came from before he became, in the rundown the following year to greater success or even faster, and
Yeah.
Rampage, just all these other over the top movies he does nowadays. He came a long way. I mean, he didn't just get to even Jumanji. He's apparently, I kid you not, now working on something with his producer, ex-wife, doing a Scorpion King reboot.
Yep.
I don't know if they'll make it a show or what, but that's just wild. He's always kind of embraced this in a way. I remember at the 2007 Taurus World Stunt Awards, for those of that don't know, that used to be a thing that was held to celebrate people in the stunt film industry, even for TV. It was always a big deal. It was a lot of fun. They only played like a few of them, like since like 2001 to 2007 was like the last broadcast, and that was it. And it was a lot of fun. Just seeing he got to be the host. He got to participate in some fake stunts as part of like the opening, of the award show. And there was some other fun hosts, like, co-hosts presenting, like, Gerard Butler was in the audience being mocked because, he had been 300 at that time. They were honoring some very dangerous stunts from other movies like Mission Impossible 3 and The Departed. And so it was just fucking cool. They had some other famous stunt faces like Thomas Rosales Jr. being a guard getting shot in the opening thing. Dennis Hopper was there.
Mm-hmm.
I think at one point is like he's just laughing evilly, making fun of his evil villain characters that he's played, and The Rock just takes out a gadget and blows up his car off screen. They have an actual explosion go off, and the crowd wows. It's just fun. It was a fun award show. It really was. It played on AMC originally. I'm sure you can see clips of it still on YouTube. And
yeah, I'm gonna have to, because I've been wanting to watch what that looks like.
Yeah, they were just always such a sense of fun. They did it like an actual award show, and it wasn't like, for lack of a better comparison, the AVN, the Adult Film Awards. They were actually
Oh yeah.
They were actually instead of going lowbrow and just having the most stupidest awards, they had some actual people being honored there, and the Emmys have occasionally done stunts nominating, but they really only did it like with prime time, and so those were the ones we didn't see.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did it, but that's how politics go. Anyway, so a lot of these movies did get a lot of stunt notification because they're having actual people in CGI suits fighting each other. Hiro Koda, this one Asian American guy who's done a lot of fight choreography. Part 2 was a serious big deal. And if you look at his demo reel, it's cool seeing him train some of the actors from Mummy Returns in his demo reel. Because basically he would get everyone in shape and just ready to, swing axes and everything. But yeah, with Scorpion King, it was one of those, Michael Clark Duncan was a cool, just comedic side character. Bernard Hill. He's also been in a bunch of other stuff. King Theoden from Lord of the Rings there for you. I guess the real deal breaker is some people found some of the comic relief kind of annoying. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to him ever on any viewing. He was always just there to me. I was like, okay, meh.
Yeah, me. So
yeah, at least he causes an explosion. That's kind of cool. So whatever.
Yeah, that's why
if you're gonna be an idiot, at least do something useful.
Exactly.
If you're gonna be the guy who keeps ripping one in the break room, at least make a few photocopies or do some work for us so we can talk less shit about you when we get off the clock, So yeah, I mean, at that award show, the Rock did actually just say, man, make fun of. He's like, I was in the Scorpion King, and one of the presenters was Kelly Hu from that, and he's like, let me introduce my former Scorpion Queen herself, Kelly Hu. That was a lot of fun. And it's like, okay, cool. Because this did make her become a bigger deal. Before then, she was already grabbing eyes, and other people's attention on the Hong Kong-inspired, East Meets West show, Martial Law, that ran for 2 seasons on CBS.
And then she was on there.
Yeah, she was like the second anchor to it. Hong Kong superstar Sammo Hung was on it. It was coming right off the heels of Rush Hour, except less lowbrow, just more, epic fun. Just if you want any kind of just outrageous, just insanity, you gotta see it. If you are a Jackie Chan completist, you'll love that too, because Sammo, after all, just trained and choreographed a lot of Chan's work, so he brings a lot of that sense to it. It's still an international sensation. It gets syndicated all out the wazoo and finally came to DVD after years of demand. I grew up on it in college, so I mean, I
didn't see how clips though, so
yeah, it's all good. It's now replaying on Heroes and Icons cable channel, so you can definitely
good, I have that channel.
Perfect. You can definitely grab some episodes and see what you think. I think you'll find it very easy going. So yeah, with Scorpion King movies, if you get a pack of these very discounted, like, it's not uncommon that you go to a gas station, Blu-rays are discounted for $3, go for it. You can't lose there. You really can't. And get some other buddies who are either drunk or into wrestling or just stupid, just over the top fighting, sword and sorcery, just campy Conan stuff. And I think you'll at least just be entertained. Obviously, these are not award winning in any way. These are barely ready for theatrical, but say for the first one, which did go to the theaters. But I mean, just have some fun. Just technically, story-wise, they're technically, 1 or 2. And it's thanks to the production value being decent. Free for entertainment value, sarcastically, maybe a 5, just because they're just so batshit and just remind you of all the other stupid 90s direct-to-video movies. The lesser ones, not so much the better ones. That were HBO world premieres. Everyone, I miss those days. So if you don't like part 2, just turn it off and go straight to part 3. If you like part 3, watch part 4. If you like part 5, well, fuck, don't even buy it. Just watch it on Netflix and have it in the background while you're doing some laundry. I have nothing else to say. These know what these are. They're not award-winning in any way except for costume design or stunts, at least. Definitely visual effects. Maybe Brendan Fraser for his awesome, comedic appeal. Starring future award winner Rachel Weisz.
Very true.
Just see him. Yeah, no one is claiming they're better than Indiana Jones. Although, what was so funny is I used to go to killer forums just to see random movie versus matches, and that fight, they were like, yeah, O'Connell totally would kick Indiana Jones's ass, and I remember a bunch of people sarcastically replies like, I think you guys are confusing the quality of Crystal Skull with who would actually win in this fight. It was like, fair enough. Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is way better than Crystal Skull.
I'm gonna say. Much better than Crystal Skull.
Not hard to do.
Yeah.
If you must see any of Crystal Skull, watch the fridge explosion, and then, that's a YouTube click away. No need.
Exactly. Don't watch the rest of it.
It's not going to get any better, guys. It's like Smokey and the Bandit Part 3. Why watch it when Burt Reynolds isn't even in it? So, Jonathan Mark, where can we find you next on the site Action Elite?
Still planning on a review next, but I'm sure it'll be something good.
Yeah, you've been going through a lot of gems from just the New Image, Lionsgate, anything on Amazon Prime to just easily pick apart and just say, hey, this holds up. It's still a lot of fun. So yeah, if you want to check out Jon's remarks on various cable TV and just other doomsday summer blockbuster type movies of the 90s and 2000s that get talked about, that he's done a few good articles on the Sue Me article where everyone defends a movie that's on trial. Sue Me, this is a lot of fun.
I'll keep saying it.
I've done some other TV reviews, but there's like 500 of those Jon hasn't Oin hasn't posted yet, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's your side. I know he's been going through so many lesser seen ones of various, bodybuilders and other action stars. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yep.
So thanks for marching with the various undead armies with me.
You're welcome.
If you guys are out of Evil Dead and other, goofy adventure movies to watch, please just have fun with these. At least the first two Mummies and one of the Scorpion King movies. So thanks for the conquest, and hopefully this is a brigade that everyone feels like being a part of.
That's cool.
I don't think this is a stormtrooper type brigade where you're like, oh, I'm just here to die.
Exactly.
I'm actually surprised that there hasn't been more cosplaying of these various characters. I would think there'd be a lot of that, but trends die
very fast.
But the loves of these movies don't, hopefully.
Exactly.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show.